Okay, good morning. A little late this morning. Getting started. I was up early, but I just kind of was sitting here looking at a tutorial on curves and lost track of time. So it's just after 5:30 a.m. my time. We're deep into the daily streaming twice a day. One of my most ambitiously crazy and weird ideas to stream for basically 8 hours a day as I do 3D artwork. So if you're new, welcome. I appreciate everyone that joins. Always appreciate the advice on the streams, how to make the stream better, whether it's streaming techniques or Blender or just advice. And, we have a good time as people kind of join. So to kind of set this up a little bit, won't go too much detail just because I'm not awake this morning. We are focused on recreating real-world locations in 3D tools. It's sort of my specialty as a 3D artist. This is like a little canvas for this location that we're working on. This is Cathedral Rock in Sedona, Arizona. And we usually gather a bunch of real-world data, we process it, we convert it to essentially a terrain, a 3D mesh. And then we can do stuff like this, like make a kind of semi-realistic looking landscape from it. And then we usually kind of go off into a few different directions. Right now we're going into this direction of creating kind of a cool little animation 3D art for a potential drop, NFT drop coming up in the future. And this is kind of the current work in progress here. And in particular, what we're doing today is we're modeling this mask. It's called the Monument Game mask, and we're trying to drop it right here in this scene. And we basically have been working on this for the last few days. It's been a bit of a challenge. We're trying to model this thing right here. This is the mask. And then you can see kind of our current progress over in Blender. It's looking pretty good. Pretty happy with it overall. I've been kind of just looking at the topology and seeing what I could do differently, how I can improve it. But generally speaking, I feel fairly confident with how it is right now. There's a few little, problem areas, I would say. And I've been learning, to be honest. I've been just kind of going down a pretty crazy rabbit hole on topology. I'm just trying to learn and understand and get as good as I can. Obviously, it's going to take some time to get it right. But I feel for where we're at, I feel pretty good. And again, this is a tiny piece of of a much bigger project. And I just really really wanted to kind of get it as good as I could. Has really been the plan. So this is kind of our reference. You can see it behind. I'll drop it down a little bit. So you can see the reference here. If you hide it, you can see it's tilted on the side, but kind of on this particular side, it's pretty lined up. And I feel pretty good about the shape. I feel pretty good about everything overall. And then in the afternoon, we usually go on to a little bit of more what do we call this? What am I trying to say? A little bit more interactive, like immersive stuff. So we usually go into 3D worlds. So we're starting to do some stuff in Unreal Engine, and that's the afternoon stream. Usually that's how it goes. Morning is like modeling and working on a piece of art, something I'm a little bit more familiar with, although I learn new stuff all the time. And the afternoon's more experimental. I would say this is like an accountability stream partly. It's also a learning stream. I'm not going to stand here and tell you this is the right way to do anything. I'll kind of teach you what I know if I can. But most likely people are going to drop in and they usually are able to kind of provide some guidance and help and just their advice along the way. Okay, so I'm just going to get right into it. I may be a little bit more quiet this stream just because I'm a little bit tired. But I'm going to work on, let me just see if I can get us a little Firefox tab that we can kind of watch together. I was watching a video on YouTube about the curve tool, and it's funny because I was doing this. It's funny, I was doing this a little earlier. Can I just rant for like 1 second? Will this work? This is so freaking annoying. I just got to rant about this. So, like, see this background image? This is on my stream. This is my now background image. And the reason it's this background image is because I wanted to change my cover photo on YouTube to be this like composite of 3 photos I made yesterday. It's 3 3D renders. I can actually bring it up and show you, but essentially there is no way on YouTube to create like a cover image that is anything short of just disaster. Like if you look at it, this full thing is what is they say it shows up on TV, you know, for however many people are watching these things on TV, right? So that's what you get on TV, is this full blown screen. But on desktop, which you would think a desktop would be just as big as a TV, people have widescreen monitors, they have whatever, you get like the inside line. Like something like in here, you get like an inside line. You have to see the thing. It's so stupid. And then on the on mobile, it's like it's this tiny little box in the middle. So there's no way to design something that actually makes sense. Like I don't know what would be a possible solution to this. Anyway, I've got to like go in and try to figure out. Exactly what's going on and how I can fix it. But I'm just going to see if I can find the previous video that I was watching. And I just
what you can do is just simply
it was actually what I was looking at. I'll flip back over. No, I've definitely put myself in a bad corner with my automation. So I created a little automation, right, to switch between like active windows and stuff. And I don't quite have it figured out yet. I have it like it works very well for Blender, so I can switch to Blender and then I can switch to like this thing to Pure F in 3 seconds. It switches over and then back to Blender. But the part that I can't figure out is I want to be able to bring up like Firefox screen in the corner so you guys can see it, but it doesn't do a good job of, like, I can switch to Firefox, but I have to go in and like see if I can get it up and running. There we go. Okay, so this might be alright. So let's just pause the music and watch this together. So this, if you watched the stream last week, I was modeling some 3D balloons. I won't open the file because I'll open up the actual main file. I was modeling some 3D balloons, and I was using the curve tool pretty extensively, which I do understand, you know, the basics of. But I do think it's funny when you watch tutorials, like it's really, you know, you get this level of explanation, and it's like if someone explains every detail and why things happen the way they happen, the video is too long. If people don't explain any detail, then the video is nice and short, but then you don't really understand it. So you follow the tutorial, you use the technique a few times, but often you don't quite like understand the actual the details of what's happening. And that's how I felt about the curve tool. And I saw it, I said it in the last stream or in the previous stream on it, that like the origin points in particular were what were throwing me off. And I'll show you what I mean. So one of the guys on this stream, Crayoji, was saying, like, you know, you should take this and put it into a curve to get the nice slope, or to get the nice, you know, curvature of the mask. And my first reaction when he said that was like, the curve tool is going to drive me nuts because I won't get it exactly the way I want it. And the reason why like the curve tool kind of drives me nuts is if you create a Bezier in Blender, like, whose idea was it to do this? Like, the shape that they give you to start, I don't know what it is about this shape. It's like it pops in. I mean, I guess you could argue that if I put the cursor to the world origin and I added this curve, right? So I added this Bezier curve. This is what we get. So we get a curve that like is like, okay, it does have a Bezier. It does. I guess that part is kind of like, okay, it kind of makes sense, right? But look at the origin point. The origin point is down here. No, the origin point is. Why can't I shape this? Oh my god. Yeah. So look. Okay, the origin point is below this, and they've curved it on the line. So I guess if you were to take this and bring it down, now it's, I guess, even, but it's not, because look at this curve on this side and look at this curve on this side. So it's just, it seems arbitrary to me. I'm sure there's some technical reason to do it, But it's like, if you want to make a curve and you want to have the origin, at the start, like all these things, it just like it doesn't add up. So I was just watching this video and I was trying to understand the origin point. So I'm just going to watch it this morning, and you can just follow along, and I'm just going to make sure I understand this before I start to apply the curve modifier to this.
If you did that step in edit mode, say for example you scale it by 10 in edit mode, then you don't have to do that, but only in object mode. So now that we have that out of the way, we can see we have this object here. But one thing we want to keep in mind when we're working with deformation modifiers, like deforming something along a curve, we also want to keep in mind geometry. So this is something I see people do when they're beginners. I did this myself many years ago when I was a beginner at 3D. You can't just make things deform without having the proper amount of geometry in here. So we have the length here established, but we do need to add more geometry, or it's not going to have any places where it can bend. Simple way to do that is just to hover over one of these edges with your cursor, hit Control R, and then roll your middle mouse button, and just roll in some extra geometry. So about that much should be okay. Then we're going to tab out, and now we have something that we could deform along a curve. Speaking of which, let's just go Shift A, and let's go over here. Instead of our mesh, we're just going to go underneath it, and we're going to add in a Bezier curve. So let's add in a Bezier, and let's just hit Z, go into wireframe, and we can see there's our Bezier. So at the moment, you can see our cube here, or our snake primitive thingy, whatever, is way too big. So we're just going to select it, and we're going to hit S to scale it down. And let's scale down about that much, just for an example. You can see it's quite small, so once again, just go Control A and just apply that scale. All these transform vectors are set back to 1. And now let's go over to our modifiers, and this is the fun part. Let's just go Add Modifier. Let's go to our curves, and let's come here to the curve object, click on the eyedropper, and let's select that Bezier curve. Now you can actually use just about anything in Blender to deform something, but a Bezier curve really is a good thing to use because it's kind of like a path that you can animate along and easily manipulate. So we're going to select by clicking on it, and now we can.
Okay, so when I immediately am trying to understand here, and hopefully he's going to explain it, is okay, why did it snap there? What made it decide that is the start point of the curve versus this side? Like, is there a defined start and end of the curve? Because if there is, I've never been able to find that, because it's just like arbitrarily it went to that side. So I don't quite understand that. And then this deform axis is the other part.
Our cube is kind of positioned here, and if we hit G to move it, it's going to go all over the place. So what we want to do, we can see here by default, it's kind of constrained it to the deform axis of X right here. So if we hit G and we hit X to constrain it to the X axis, we're going to see that works really well.
Okay, so by deforming it to the X, he now can move it left and right on the X axis, and it's moving left and right. It still doesn't explain why it's over to the left though.
So if we were to actually come here and change it to -X, and we went GX, and now you can see it's the opposite. So if I'm trying to move it to the right of my monitor, you can see it's not working. So now I have to move it the opposite. So I'm moving the cursor the way the opposite way.
I'm going to be in a mood this morning
because it's now in the negative. So it kind of just makes sense if you think about it.
Well, it does.
If you change it to something like Y, for example.
So why? What did it? So it flipped it, but why though? That's what I don't understand. It's just because it was on the X before. So it was on the X because the shape, and now the Y would flip it. But how would you logically think through that?
GX, you can see that's not going to work either. You'd have to go GY to make that.
So from what I'm commenting as we go. So from what I can say is okay, the deform axis was so far whatever axis the object was. But okay, so switching it to the Y didn't just flip it. It just doesn't work. So what reason would you have to put it on the Y-axis?
That works. So this is what these deform axes are. So let's just change it to X, because in this case we have an object that we want to move along the X-axis, as you can see here, which is
so this is what drives me nuts about these all this stuff, right? It's okay, the way he just skipped over that. He just said, okay, so we want to use the X because that's what works, and we want to move it along the X-axis. How really do you though? I guess, but also this goes on the Y-axis. So is it the fact that this dot is to the right on the X-axis of the other one? What if you had dots that went all the way up here and then back around and ended here? Why are you then deforming on the X versus the Y? This is what
red line indicating that. So let's select the Bezier curve itself.
And this is it. And I think this is where, like, it's from a tutorial standpoint, it's always tough because it's like maybe this person doesn't even know, right? You never really thought through that. It just works, and then you explain it to other people, and then we all just sort of learn from each other. But to me, there's got to be a reasonable explanation that really technically explains why the deform axis, and what makes sense.
Let's go into edit mode. And when you select that Bezier
and why
curve,
would
you
you
can
use
see
negative?
it's got these points, or what we call handles. So you can actually select these handles and you can control them. You can select the ends of the...
Do you see what I mean though? Like if he moves this line over here or up here, why does the X still make sense? I don't get that.
handles, and that just gives you a little bit more control over the rotation of them and the pointiness of them. So for example, if we just select the handle here itself, the main handle, right, and we hit E, we can extrude it.
I swear one day it's going to take me a long time because I'm still new to this stuff. But I can tell you right now that there will be a day where I'll start doing tutorials, and I'm all of these things that drive me nuts in these tutorials I'm going to incorporate into. I haven't thought about exactly how to do it yet. There's going to be a way to do it where it's like, because I stop a lot, right? And there needs to be a way where it's like a simple, fast tutorial, but you can at any point you can like expand, and you can get a better description of why something works the way it does. That's the key. It's like, do you want to just get it done, or do you want to understand why this is actually happening the way it is? I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I've been thinking about this for the last little while.
Bit like a point, so I'm going to maybe extrude it over here, rotate it, and maybe I'm going to go grab the first handle here, and I'm just going to rotate.
Do you get my point though? Like right now, if you were to
and
drop in
E, we can extrude
from
it
an alien
point,
planet,
so I'm going to maybe extrude it over here, rotate it, and
you looked at that curve, at what about this curve is telling you that this is a curve going from X to Y, or X to X, like from this side to this side, versus from this way to this way, right? It goes this way first and then up, and then in the other, so what makes this an X deformation versus a Y?
maybe I'm going to go grab the first handle here, and I'm just going to rotate that. So now you can see here we have this nice curve.
Nothing to me would logically indicate that this is an X deformation versus a Y, other than just the way we're looking at the camera right now.
Into edit mode, we can select our primitive snake object here, and we can hit G, X, and we can just move it along the X, and you can see it's...
Like, am I crazy? Am I the only, would I be the only one that would think that easily you could turn the camera and you could say, oh, we're actually deforming this on the Y-axis? I don't quite understand the difference.
We could even animate that with some basic keyframing if we wanted to. Now, one thing you might not like, if you select your object here that you're deforming and you tab into edit mode, you can see it just all of a sudden appears over here. So why is it being placed over here? So that's where the origin point comes in. So what we want to do, if you want it to start at the very end in a controlled way, what you can do is just simply select your curve, tab into edit mode, and hit A to select all of the points or handles here, and then hit G, and just move the whole thing till the very first handle is right on the origin point of this curve, this Bezier curve.
Okay, so what he's saying here is that he's saying that the curve starts at the origin point. It looks like, no, he doesn't say the curve starts at the origin point. He appears to be saying that the curve is going to start, that the deformation is going to start wherever the first point of the curve is. But so far I haven't heard why that's the first point and not this one. So that's number one. And number two is like, okay, so you can move that to where you want to start, but what if you wanted it to start at the origin point or somewhere else? So I'm hoping I can get an explanation on this.
So we went into object mode again, and we double tapped R. You can see it's rotating around that origin point now. And we can do the same thing with our...
So all he did was he moved the curve so that the origin point of the curve... This has nothing to do with world origin, by the way, which is just deceptive, right? The fact that he's got the 3D cursor and he's on the XY has nothing to do with this. What he's done is he's basically just moved the curve so that the beginning of the curve is at its own origin point instead of in the middle. So far, this is what he's done that I can see. Now, I don't know still what makes this side of the curve the start.
Primitive object here. We can go into edit mode, select everything. We can go G, X, and just move it till its own origin point is in the very end here.
Okay, so he moved.
And now you have something like that. You can come in at any time and move it away from that origin point. So now if we tab in and out of edit mode, you can see it's not just jumping around. It's kind of where we...
So now I'm wondering about this curve, deform axis. And I'm wondering like how much it has to do with the geometry of the object.
We want it to be in that space. So you can also go into edit mode and duplicate this. So you can make multiples of this and it'll all still work. If we go into object mode and we go G,
this is not
Z,
important.
and we move it along the Z axis, you can see it's deforming. So let's quickly go to our timeline here. Let's go to frame 10 and...
Yeah, this is what... Look, I'm just going to rant. Like, this is what drives me crazy about tutorials. Like, now he's going to probably teach us how to animate this. It's like, okay, not any point have we actually explained why it starts at that part of the curve, why the deform axis is the way it is. Those are the two critical things of a curve.
We're going to hit
in my mind.
I, insert a location.
Now he's going to animate.
You're going to see we have, when we run the animation, see what happens? Which makes things stretch and look all funny. But it works for organic things quite well.
And it's always the same thing, right? Like everyone's super positive, which is great. It's a great tutorial. It's well done, simple language. But the two things that are absolutely critical in this, in my mind, are those two things. And, you know, maybe it's obvious, but, you know, you can link to another video. I don't know. So this is my Bezier curve. So this is the similar situation that I'm dealing with, right? Is I've got, what do I got? 2 points. By the way, it's another little Blender thing. Blender should 100% distinguish between, when you look at that line, okay, so let's turn off the grid. I'm just in a mood this morning. So look at this grid and you saw this object. How would you know where the points are on this object? So I'm going into edit mode, which I can't do suddenly because I went into edit mode. So what do you see? You don't see really any, you see a couple dots, right? Here and here. So then you click the dot and then it goes to these things. It's like, why not just make the middle dot like a little bigger or something just to show that it's actually pivoting. Okay, so I have this here and I have this here. There's no way to know. I'm sure like there's I know there's like a reverse curve thing. Object. Can't remember where I saw that once. Curve, transform, split, separate, spline type, show, hide, clean up, delete, control points, make segment, tilt, recalculate, handle, smooth, hooks, make vertex, parent, no, segments, switch direction. Okay, so there it is. So okay, so it's saying switch direction, but which direction is it right now? Right, switch, nothing's happening. So again, what makes this vertex? It drops in the stream. This is all I'm going to ask them for the rest of the stream. What makes this vertex the first vertex versus the other one? Just hit me with that answer. Someone can answer that. Yeah, let's just go figure. Let's just go. What makes the start end of a curve under? I mean, can you do this? Is also another little pet peeve. It's like, what's the difference with this path versus what's the difference between the path and the NURBS and the Bezier? I know I've seen a thing on this, but okay, let me just see this. So if I go to this curve and I look at this deform axis, can I get like an online manual on this thing? It works on a global dominant axis. Means when you move your mesh in the dominant direction, by default X, the mesh will traverse along a curve, as if it was a train following the deforming along rails. Moving the mesh perpendicular to the axis, the object will move closer or further away. Perpendicular. Perpendicular, right, is opposite. it'll move closer or further away from the curve. Okay, so that somewhat makes sense. So whatever the dominant axis is going to move it along that. So maybe that's what that is. Still don't quite understand. When you move the object beyond the curve's ends, the object will continue to deform based on the direction. Okay. The modifier works in a global space. In other words, the actual position of the geometry relative to the curve is determinant to get the correct result. Okay. Want your object's origin to be at the center of your geometry, not offset far away from it. Well, no kidding. And you want to start with your object's origin at the same location. And then you'll want to start with your object's origin at the same location as your curve object's origin. Okay, that makes sense. If the curve is 3D, doesn't really give us a lot of info. But this part does make sense. And maybe this is why nobody ever knows, because Blender maybe doesn't explain it. Nobody figures it out. So if I was to think through this now, here's part of the problem. So I'm not moving this along the curve. I'm basically curving it. So really, I want the object to be this is where it's going to get really tricky, because if I set the location of this to 0, and then I go ahead and deform this to this curve, let me just predict what's going to happen. I'll think through this. If I deform this to this curve, it's going to move to the origin point of the curve. No, it's going to move to the first vertex. So it's going to shift over here, but we don't want it over here. We want it to sit in the middle, and we want it just to be dead center on this curve. So what could we possibly do? What could we possibly do to, like, this is where these like the logic of this, if a little more explanation would probably help understand this. Because I know that I know what's going to happen. As soon as I hit deform, it's going to move over here to this curve, to this point, because this is the start of this curve for some reason that we haven't figured out yet, as opposed to this side. And then I'm going to have to move it along the x-axis to center it. But how will I know what center is? Because right now we're all centered on this. Everything's lined up. If I move this curve to here, then it's going to be there, but it's not going to be at the point of the curve. So how would you do this to center this directly 100%? Know that this is dead center, both on the origin of this, which is set at the center. This curve is set on the line. How do we just make this curve into a curve? Like if I extrude this way, right? For example, this is like another thing in terms of understanding. Maybe there's an extras or something. No. So look, I can guarantee this. Okay, so watch. If I deform this on the curve, it's going to move over to there. Fuck. Oh, this is so stupid. This is so stupid. Okay. Oh my god. Like, do you see what I'm saying? And like, you know what? This is what people will do, right? We'll like, because we're all like, people are figuring this out. They're gonna just be like, oh, okay, well, we're just gonna switch it over here, and then we're gonna like, we don't actually sit down and figure out what's going on here. Like, what is actually happening? Why would this do that? What did I do? Because I switched the direction of the curve? Let's try it again. Add curve. I'm going to move this morning, and I'll just sit here until I like understand this. It's just like this apology. It's like there's just I sometimes I get sick of just following this stuff and not actually knowing what is happening. Because now we just have 2 points. So maybe because I didn't switch directions, I didn't do anything. So we add the modifier, we set it to the curve, and it goes over here. Like, am I losing my mind? What made that curve? What made that curve X-axis, Y-axis. It would appear to me that everything is proper. This is Z up, right? This is Y up, Y down, X, Y. Everything is perfect. What happened to that curve? What did I do? Let's try this again. Maybe I just hit the wrong curve. Add curve Bezier. Okay, just by default. Let's try this again. Maybe I just hit the wrong one. Curve. There we go. Okay. So I guess the curve. So something about reversing that curve caused, although there's no indication of where that curve is. Okay, so this moves over here, which is not what we want. If we move this curve origin point to the center, it's still not going to be the problem because we want a perfect curve along the center. So what is going to tell us, I know we can move it, but what is going to allow us to center this on this curve perfectly? So we're 100% sure that we're centered and we don't have to change that. That to me is an absolute mystery. It's an absolute mystery. Like I can do this, right? I can bring this vertex down, right? This one is 0.5, this one is 1. So this is a perfect, although some reason this Bezier, this is like another thing, right? These points, like why do these points have to have, why do these control, like these controls of these, like the Bezier, I don't know what you call these things, the curve controls, what is it that's deciding that these are this, this far out on this side versus this one? And how can you restart that? How can you reset that? Like why is the first curve in the line automatically like that versus like that? Do you know what I mean? It just seems like you'd want to start someone out with something that's like completely even. Okay. And same with this one. Why are these by default like that and not like that? Okay. So we can add a point in the middle and we can bring it up and it's going to be perfect curve, right? So we have this point in the middle and we can bring it up and now we have the curve. And we can control this. We can bring this down, which we want, this to sort of taper out, but this makes sense. And then we can move this along the X. And I guess we could make it 1 meter. No, you would think. Right? So it's like, what is deciding? Like what's centering that? It's not 1. This is what I don't understand is this curve is 1 meter. So what's determining that is 1.105? This is the stuff that drives me mad. It's like, if you want to be precise in this, I feel like there should be maybe there's going to be some, curve modifier. There's going to be some, 37-minute. Okay, this one's all you need to know. Let's give this guy a shot.
Curves are special objects in Blender which allow you to create smooth mesh deformations, can be used to animate objects along a path, and are even used in Blender's hair and particle system.
By the way, I've used curves like 1,000 times in camera animations before. It's not like I don't understand the concept, it's just...
They play an essential role in 3D modeling and animation and can be challenging to master. But once you've used them a couple of times, you'll find yourself using them in almost every project. In Blender, you can create curves just like you create meshes. Different curves serve the same purpose, to create a path using control points. The only difference are the handles you use to define.
Okay, that's nice. So they're saying that the only difference is the handles. Okay, I'd love to see...
on the path. Your choice of curve depends...
Okay, so NURBS is... Okay, this is actually really good. So this I guess is the different... It kind of skipped over it.
To create a path using control points. The only difference are the handles
kind of skipped over it, but the NURBS, it looks like, is just you hit the angles and it sort of follows that.
Path. Your choice of curve depends on personal
Bezier I'm very
preference.
comfortable
You
with.
can achieve the same result
Okay, that's fine. So there's 3.
with any curve.
Okay, that's
When
good.
you enter edit mode for a curve, you'll see the different control points. By moving these points, like you move vertices, you can influence the
Okay.
path. You can add more control points by subdividing. When you select 2 control points, right click and choose subdivide. Alternatively, you can select a control point and press E.
Okay, so see what he just did there? So he just extruded right from this curve. So now, is this the start of the curve? Or is this the start of the curve? I'm gonna start giving away like points on these streams for anyone that can answer these questions.
E to extrude. You can also delete control points as usual by pressing X.
Okay, this is all good.
Each control point has handles which can be used to manipulate the shape of the curve. There are 4 handle types in Blender: automatic, vector, aligned and free. You can switch between handle types by selecting a control point and pressing the V key, or by using the toolbar options in the control points menu.
Man, I gotta start doing videos. So like this is just kind of a for fun. I'm curious because these control points. So where did he? Okay, so control points, set handle type. So automatic. Okay, so automatic seems like it just. I guess it would just follow along. Vector. I'd like to know what the difference is between these. Align, free. Can we get the online manual on this? Okay, handle type. Oh, I like this. Okay, I like this. Recalculate handles. I like this. I definitely could use this. Recalculate handles. If that does what I kind of hope it does. So let's go. Let's just do, because I've had this happen before, right? So let's do a Bezier, right? So here's our new stupid Bezier, and like we go in here and we extrude, we do a bunch of stupid stuff, right? And then we bring this down here. Oops, we brought this out. Bring this up here. Oops. And we brought this down like that. Ooh. Okay, so let's say we did this. Can we actually do this recalculate? So see how they're all different length? Okay, nice. So it sort of just brings it all, although oddly it doesn't really. It doesn't really actually do. It kind of normalizes them, but it doesn't actually do them. It doesn't actually do them. It doesn't actually smooth them out perfectly, which is kind of odd. I guess it just looks at the curve and then it puts them to whatever it thinks is appropriate. I don't know. They're all the same length. They're not the actual same length. That's what's funny about that. So if we just do this, we hit A and we go recalculate and we turn length on. It says that they're same length, but they're not. They're clearly not. Oh man. Okay. Smooth is cool. Done that. Shift R, yeah, Shift R to repeat. This is important. One of the coolest things you can do in Blender, by the way, which I should do at some point, is use like you can basically like keyframe. You go into your camera, and you keyframe it, and you turn on active keyframes, and you actually use like ASDF, like you walk around the scene and control the camera, like it's like playing an old school video game. But then you go into the curve and you smooth it, and it's actually insane. It's one of the coolest things I've ever seen. It just it takes your like perfect. It takes your kind of choppy camera and puts it into like the most perfect cinematic camera. I should mess around with that one day. Maybe if I get bored on this call, I'll do it. Okay. So what I'd like to know, this is the thing that's kind of currently messing me up. Switch direction. Maybe there's a setting. How to tell where a curve starts. Blender. Showing direction arrows on a curve would be super cool.
Alright, I get asked this probably at least once a week. And
Once a week.
I figure I'll go ahead and answer this question. It comes up again. All right. In
Someone needs to apply. I don't know when this is going to happen. This is going to be, maybe I'll be the person to do it. Someone needs to apply like the Mr. Beast style, like engagement and just the technical, like the way he thinks about engagement of videos to tutorials.
Blender 2.8 and newer, whenever you have like, go to top side view, there's this Bezier curve. Now, in 2.6,
I almost think that the way to do this with a video, I'm just sort of talking out loud, is to start with like actually like almost like a time lapse of it. Like, you know, let's make a block and show the result quickly in the first and then explain how to do it. The only issue is people might drop if they get the
9
quick
and
explanation
older,
at the
if
beginning.
You press tab, you go into edit mode, points. For some reason, now how you go about it, you have your tab, or then your arrows pop up.
Okay, so what did he just do?
Check this box, and then your arrows pop up.
I like that a lot, actually. The normals. That's how you do it? Interesting. Huh. This is super cool. This is like one of those little tips that is really massively helpful. I can't tell you how many times I've looked at a curve and been like, which way is this curve going? So there you go. There's your tip of the day. And I think you don't need a lot. I think you just want a little subtle arrow at the bottom that's going to tell you which way this is going. I also wish you could make the thickness of this stuff much more. I know you can, like, I don't know if, what is it, Control A? How do you change the thickness of a curve? Is it Alt A? Maybe it's in here. Okay, so twist method, smoothness, stretch, geometry, extrude, bevel, path animation, active slides. I've never really looked through this. I'm just kind of curious. So start and end mapping. It's also interesting. So I don't know whether like you would then see this, but I really do like. So what's the difference between extrude? Like, I wonder if just is it that simple? Like if you just say 0.01, 0.01, like just to give it a little bit of, you know, just to give it a little bit something you can see a bit better. It's kind of nice. 0.005, even like that. Sorry, I'm just going down. And then, so this is the resolution preview. So that gives you, smooths the curve out. I don't think it's going to cause any, that's nice. I don't know if that does anything. Curve deform. I don't want to be creepy, but that's actually like just a nice, honestly, it's just nice to be able to see your curve. Be kind of a cool default. So now I'm looking at like this resolution. So does this do anything? Not really. Bevel object. This is nice though. I would argue that it'd be nice for this to be a little bit Yeah, no, I know that. I'm just I know that. I know that it's going to render. I'm just curious if there's a way to make the actual line bigger. Yeah, it's too bad. It'd be nice to have a bit more. It'd just be nice to see that. Okay. So we still don't have any idea. So this, we know that this is going to switch direction. Well, it doesn't. So that's great. So, okay, so that does switch direction. There's still no full explanation as to why it default starts there, but that's at least you can control that. And then we've got this here. Yeah, so still don't have a good explanation as to why. Why would that go? So it actually modified this. So stupid. Okay, so still no good explanation as to why, how to actually. So it's going to move always to the first part of the curve. But if you wanted it to be dead center on the X, not move, there seems to be no explanation as to how to center it exactly dead center in the middle of a curve. It doesn't even seem to make sense in terms of the actual curves. In terms of the actual, this is the DR stupid default curve. It drives me nuts. It drives me absolutely nuts that they do it this way. So you have to go and center this. At least we've got the curve direction. And then this thing, which actually doesn't work. Control points. Recalculate handles. We learned this one. Okay, at least it gets it centered. I think they're centered. Or at least they're even when we're in here. Okay. So now we know what's going to happen. We know that this is going to go add. Curve. We know this is going to go to the left. The deform axis is like, doesn't make any sense. And then we know that we can move this along the curve, but why is it, why to center it? Yeah, that drives me nuts, and I'm refusing to do that today. I'm not gonna do this until I understand exactly what's happening. I understand the basics of it, and I've done camera movement, but again, it's the fact that, so if you have an explanation for this, like, help me out. It's the fact that what I'm going to understand is that, okay, it's centered this perfectly, right? So the origin point of the curve is here, and the origin point of this guy is dead center. It moves it to dead center at the beginning of the curve, which is completely fine. But now you would think if this curve's points are 1 meter apart, 2 meters apart, right? So this point here to this point here is 1 meter and 2 meter. Like, I would guess that this is, like, wouldn't you guess that this is actually 1 meter? If you move this 1 meter over, it would be dead center. Does that make sense? My running conjecture is that the origin of the curve object needs to be at the start vertex of the curve. Okay, so yeah, okay, so you're saying, so what he's saying is if you took the origin of this, we just went here, and we set our 30 cursor, which I don't know why we can't do. Can't set our 3D cursor to here. I always thought you could set 3D cursor to Can you not do that? Can you not snap a vertex to the 3D cursor or move the 3D cursor to a certain vertex on a curve? Like you can do it on here. Curve to selected. You can't change your 3D. So how would you get the exact location of that? I mean, I know where it's 1 meter. Menu curve snap. What is that? Menu curve snap. But what is that doing? That's, yeah, to grid. Selection to cursor. Yeah, but I'm saying is why can't I move cursor to, so So the shortcut is not working. So my Shift S. So Shift S is not using. You can't use that Shift S to be. This Shift S is default, right? In Blender, like in here, if I hit Shift S, I always use this. Maybe it's a plugin. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe I just got used to using it. Yeah, okay, curve. So anyway, we set that to this. Now we can set this selection to cursor. Okay, so this is what. So now the origin is set to the same point as this. So you're saying now you think that if you move this 1, but now its location. Okay, so its location is -1. That makes sense. But now 0 should go here and 1. Okay, so is that just to do with the fact that the object is not the same as the cursor? The curve is exactly 2 meters across, but the object is not. So that's probably what that is. So you're saying the origin of the curve. Yeah, the origin of the curve object. But what I just did solved the problem, by the way. This was what I actually wanted to do. Because the origin, what is the origin? Origin of the curve object is going to affect, like, when we move the curve and rotate the curve. But it doesn't have any effect on the actual curve modifier from what I've seen. Like, this is the actual thing I wanted, which is, it's a little, honestly, it's a little wonky that has to go that way. But because we set the origin of the mask to the curve, and then we offsetted the mask 1 meter, we centered it perfectly on the curve, which is what I was actually trying to get at, to be honest, before. Because now I have a curve that is exactly 1 meter across. And now if I subdivide this in the middle, and then I bring us to here, I can bring this up. And I feel like I have like full symmetrical control, although I don't, because see that? So are you potentially saying that this would be the issue? Like if you put the origin point of the curve to the middle now, you wouldn't get this situation? Like I want this thing to curve exactly dead center and not have to be like, okay, now I have to do this again. Like now I have to go into the actual mask and I have to rotate until I'm guessing where the center point is, which I don't really like. That's what I've been trying to figure out. Okay, so I'll try your explanation and just see. So if I bring this back to 0, the origin, let's just bring the origin of this back to 0. Cursor to, or selection, cursor to selected. Okay, so the origin's back to here. Let's see what happens with the origin of this. So this is curve. What was it? Curve. What the heck was it? I've already forgotten where it was. Curve. Mirror. Snap. Oh yeah. Snap. Stupid. No, I'm gonna understand it. I don't care. I'll do it for 3 hours until I figure it out. Cursor to. Okay, so we're trying to change the origin point of this to origin to 3D cursor, which I don't know if you can do in origin to 3D cursor. Cannot be performed on edit mode. Okay. Okay. So to be, well, now does the fact that the origin is not okay, so the origin point's down here now. It's not doing it. It's not doing it. I didn't make any effect. That's what I thought. When I looked at all the stuff, it didn't matter. The origin point of the cursor is only relative to like how you manipulate the cursor. The object is always going to go to the beginning of the cursor if you snap it directly, right? So it's always going to go to the beginning. So you could obviously move the beginning of the curve to the middle, and it won't move. It'll be right where you start, which is great for certain things. Like you're trying to make a rope or something, you want it to come out from the same origin point. But for this, I don't. I want it to be, it's just, what I'm trying to figure out is there a way to basically guarantee that's centered? Right now, it's like a manual process, and I don't like that at all. Curve modifier exact. Yeah, no kidding. Join the club, buddy. I almost want to give another tutorial a shot. This was really great with this direction arrow.
Check this box. Why they...
I can't click this guy's stuff because I hate his intro so much. We'll give it Ryan King a
In this
chance.
Blender tutorial, I'm going to show you how to use curves in Blender. So I'm first just going to select everything and then I will delete it. I'll now press Shift A and you can see that right under here under Mesh there are these curve options. Now there are a bunch of them here, but the main ones that I use are the Bezier, Circle, and Path. So I'm just going to start by adding this first one here, which is a Bezier. So what are curves used for? Well, curves actually have many different uses, but the main uses that I can think of and things that I've used them for are for things like hair. So if you're creating like a stylized character, they can be really good to create hair. And they're also really good for creating pipes and tubes and like metal piping and things like that. Now, curves don't act like regular mesh objects. You can see here, if you tab into edit mode or just go over here to edit mode, they only have an edit mode and
This is interesting. I've done this before. I'm kind of curious. So let's see what this does. So if we do the, what is it? Deform. Where is deform? Trying to remember this. Oh, you can't do it based on an empty. That's interesting. You would think you could be able to do that. Was it deform? Maybe it was surface deform? surface do for you? How simple do for you? Nothing ever is, so it does nothing. You would think, we're on the Z, you would think that bending it on the Z axis would do something. You would think. But that's not how this works. That's so annoying. How about that? Nailed it. It's amazing what you can sometimes do with Blender without even realizing what you're doing. Yeah, I would have thought that would do better than that. That's too bad. I don't know what that. Okay, it's just frustrating. It's fine to do this way. It shouldn't be. It really shouldn't be. Might be the fact that it's the scale of the X. But it just doesn't make sense. Maybe I have an idea. This is 1.72, right? 1.72. 1.72 divided by 2 minus 1.772 divided by 2. Just curious whether this will solve our problem. So now, if I bring this to 1 meter, okay. So, yeah, but then it stretches out. See, it's like you can't tell it to center itself on this curve exactly, which is really frustrating. I mean, it's just a limitation. It's just a little bit annoying. Okay, I'm gonna stop worrying about this. Okay, let's go to this stupid curve. We can kind of manipulate this how we want, although it's really annoying. Right? See, if I bring this down, now I have to go back to the mask. And I have to bring it back. And you just have to keep centering this, which it doesn't make any sense. Let me get my reference. It's pretty subtle. Let me see. That's probably pretty good. Okay. Cool. So, I mean, like, this is what's so stupid about this. It's so stupid is you have to move the freaking object off of its origin point to make this curve work. You have to, like, if you put the origin point of the object, but you don't want to change the origin point of the object. It'd be nice to keep the origin point of the object the same. The curve's origin point's not making an effect. Yeah, I don't know. It's just a little annoying. Actually, really annoying to have to do that. I'd like to keep these modifiers active before I do anything else, but it's all good. Yeah, this what's really stupid about this. Okay, I'm going to take a quick break and come back. Maybe watch some more video. I don't want to let this go. It's a stupid thing, and I just need to move on and get this done. I mean, this could have been done 3 days ago. I just too stubborn. But it would be really nice to keep this object right on the origin point and apply the modifiers so that everything works properly. Maybe that's an impossible goal. I'll be back in probably 10 minutes, grab a quick breakfast, and then I'll be back to streaming. Okay, I'm back. Curve modifier curves from the start of the curve object and tries to conserve the length of the object. I don't think that it doesn't make any sense. What I've seen this blender is centered around a creative freeform. No, that's BS. That's BS, CryoG. You know that's BS. There's precision all over Blender in every aspect. If you can't, curve something precisely to dead center, it's either because it's just not like a feature. It's been set up for that, or it's set up for something else, or there's some setting or something that's missing. The Blender it's not CAD, but it's absolutely precise, and it can be precise. There's zero reason for you to not be able to precisely curve something. Yeah, I'm not buying that explanation. Not one bit. Well, it's just not true. Yeah, everything in Blender is precise. Blender's basically Python with the UI. It's Python. Everything in Blender is basically running Python. So you can't say it's not precise. Just because you don't have your own personal explanation of how to do something doesn't mean you can't just throw out, hey, Blender's not a precise tool. That's nonsense. I don't know what you're saying, to be honest.
to visualize.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little bit easier for me to see this. Hey Rob, how you doing, man? Good to see you. I'm in a bit of a zone right now. I'm refusing to give up on this. It's fine. I definitely can go forward with it. Just I don't know, something about it that I'm trying to kind of learn topology a little bit as I go and figure things out. So I'm just kind of staring at little things and thinking about how someone would fix them. It's an interesting thing. I feel like it's at the tip of my brain. Oh, that's good. Glad that. Hopefully it wasn't important. I think I'm ready to move on from this. It's one of these things that's like right at the tip of my brain, and I can see it like from practicing, just like figuring out how to like add geometry, remove geometry, make sure things look right at the right places. I honestly can I can 100% kind of see it now, but I don't quite have the practice to do it. But it's I feel good about it. Okay, so what was I gonna do right now? I was gonna do the curve, and then maybe a little bit of sculpting, and then I was gonna texture this. Oh, the beef with the mask is nothing nothing specific. I'm happy with it. It's more of just like being one, like what was bothering me right now is that I didn't really have any geometry on the bottom. So I kind of fixed that, but I created a couple of issues, and I just, it's like, to me, it's kind of a puzzle. And again, I don't quite have like a full feeling. Like I don't have a full grasp of it, where I feel comfortable. Like for example, if I wanted to cut through this and add a nice loop, but then it's like, okay, now over here I have some problems I have to solve, and it's like the technique to solve them is just kind of at the tip of my understanding, and I think it's like how you see it. Like you see the geometry and you're like, okay, like I get I want to kind of I'm trying to make it as uniform as possible. So it's kind of nice to be able to look at this and say, oh, like, okay, I can grab this line and I can kind of slide it over. But you sort of, I don't know, it's just like it's a really enjoyable process, but it's very frustrating because, yeah, like this is a perfect example. So right here, I'd like to be able to, continue this on, like knife this all the way through. Yeah, so I'd like to be able to go No, I don't know. I'm not really sure why. It's nothing to do. It looks fine. It's perfect. I don't have any issue with how it looks. I mean, yeah, I know I could. You're saying just to repeat it, but the problem to the back. So, yeah, but then it's going to be, the geometry is different on the front and the back. So maybe I'm misunderstanding what you're saying, but I think. Yeah, no, the geometry is different, so I don't know how that would work. It's all fine. It's just I just now I'm just kind of in a weird mode. It's just early in the morning for me here, and I'm just kind of like curious, like, okay, like how do I solve this little triangle? Is there a way to do it? Like if I cut this here. Like if I cut this down here, then I can dissolve that, and then I have here, but then I have a triangle over here. So just like my brain is, and I know there's techniques to do it, like for controlling like the edge flow and just sort of do, and I'm just being stubborn, to be really honest. There's no other reason, just being stubborn. Okay. What is hey Rob, what is the weighted normals modifier, and how does it work? I was looking at it just earlier. I was just kind of messing around and I saw it. I'm kind of curious where actually, so where do you see to fix that artifact? Which artifact are you talking about? Which artifact did you see or did you notice? Do you think I wasn't really trying to fix an artifact, to be honest. I mean, the only thing that I actually see on this model that, like from here, looks a little bit wonky is this. Is that what you meant, or was there something else? No, it's like not that. It's just, it's not even, honestly, I'm fine. I could just, like, I'm good with this. I just could apply the curve to it and apply the modifiers and then texture it. It's just, yeah, I don't know. This is more of a learning thing for me, just to kind of understand how to convert. It's basically the thing I'm trying to figure out is like how to convert areas where I want more geometry or less, and how to kind of connect those. That was basically all I was doing. Like, this is like another example, right? So if you do this doesn't have any effect, right? So we get rid of that n-gon there. And then over here, now I've got a crazy, right? I've got a crazy thing going on that I've got to fix. Right, because I've got sort of this all just kind of hanging out. And that's all. I'm just sort of thinking that. Oh, is it bad? It's cool that how did you see, Rob, that it was that it's on Twitch and YouTube? Sort of curiosity. I'll let you go over to. Yeah, so just like little things like this, like, okay, now I have something here I have to kind of work through, and it's just kind of it's just like a brain thing, thinking through what the right solutions are to these things. Right now I have that there, but then I have, I could do a triangle here. I don't know. That's all I'm really doing. It's nothing. It's kind of stupid. It's just me being dumb. Okay, so like you're saying as a modifier, is this what it is? Weighted normal? But what am I trying to ask you? Like what impact will that make? Like what am I solving with this solution that you have? Because I'm like, at least right now, I could be totally wrong, but at least right now I'm not actually trying to solve anything. I'm literally just messing around with geometry to see how I would, add more faces, remove stuff. I'm really just experimenting. Yeah, which one do you see? Is it this? I mean, I guess it's hard to say, but I don't really know. Maybe that's coming from, I mean, you can kind of see a little bit of a thing there, but I wasn't actually worried about that. No. Oh yeah, so I needed to fix, like, okay, so Rob, like, really all I'm doing, and really all I'm doing is, I was just, when I started this just messing around, I had really no geometry on the back here, and it was bothering me. It was just like everything looked pretty clean. I don't really have many triangles in here. There's like a few here and there. So that's really what it was. It's more of just from a topology standpoint, like a fun exercise of like, all right, how do I fix that? Like right there. Like, how do I fix that? And that's where it's hard because, there's techniques and you're sort of got to get used to it, but nobody, I've had conversations with Cryogy, he's told me everything, but he's never, actually been on here and been like, okay, here, try this for this particular thing. So it's something I'm just trying to learn as I go. But these, trying to get rid of any n-gons or any triangles and that kind of stuff. And I'm just, I don't know, just messing around. Not the most exciting stream, but for me, it's more about learning. Like the knife tool, I am using the knife tool. It's not about how to do it. It's about what is the correct way to move from this triangle to this quad, or how to change the geometry. It's not, I know how to do it. Like, I know the tools to do it. I just don't know I'm learning the methodology and the actual, like, I don't know what it is. I'm just learning the actual process behind it, so I can kind of get my head around, like, okay, when I want to go from, from this to this, how would I do it? That's really what I'm just doing. It's not that exciting, and there's no real problem to solve, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, Rob, like, that's literally what I'm doing. Literally, you just said what I'm just, it's this specific project, and I'm just, as a test to myself of how much I'm learning this, I'm just experimenting. There's no problem. I could just stop this. I could have stopped this 2 days ago, but this is how my brain works. I'll just keep working on it until I can fully understand it. It could be done. I mean, I'm pure stubbornness at this point, which is fine. I don't care. Yeah, and that's it too. I'm tempting to do this without. It's just consider this education for myself and no one else. That's really it. I hate to say it. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It's not like I'd love for this to be super entertaining, but this is just what I'm doing. Yeah, I have no interest in like taking a shortcut. I just I want to understand. Yeah, no, I have quad remesher on here. I have a tool to do it. Again, I can't stress this enough. I don't know how else to explain it to you. I'm not actually trying to just solve a problem. There's no problem. This is done. I am trying to solve an internal problem, which is me wanting to understand how topology works and how these things all connect. That's it. There's nothing to solve. There's no problem. I don't know how else to explain that. Seems like it's an obvious thing, but there you go. There's the turn at least. Like another little example, right? just a mental block on these ones. You can start to see it, like I can start to see it, but it's now, I think it's just some techniques to go from, like, you know, areas with more quads to less. And I was looking at something online here, and I was okay. I'm gonna give up on it or stop doing this. I'm just gonna finish this up. Okay. Let's see. So, Rob, if you're still looking, so this is an interesting. So these little ridges. Curious what might be causing that, and whether you'd mentioned about that weighted normal. This do anything? I don't actually know how this one works. Sorry, in that modifier? Under geometry data. I can hear? In the green triangle tab. Oh, like this thing? This, yeah. And you're saying clear custom split normal data. So what does that do? I don't see that option, but okay. Yeah, it's just kind of interesting that it got that kind of weird ridge look. It doesn't feel like it should, right? Definitely can see it though. Maybe the way I applied the modifiers, because it's not showing up here. Interesting. Okay, it didn't show up there. Just weirdly, was it showing? Weird. And there's shade smooth, shade auto smooth, shade flat. Yeah, see it 100%, but it just something was weird about that, because here's the original. Right? Here's the original. Let's duplicate it and just apply the modifiers. It didn't happen. That's just weird, right? Like, am I imagining that? Oh no, it is there. It happens. It happens with the curve modifier, I think. Right? So it's not here. So I wonder. Okay, it's okay. I think I know. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that could be possible. But I did try and say shade smooth. So if we do this one at a time. Let's kind of look at this one step at a time. So we apply the subdivision, no issue, right? We apply the mirror, no issue. It's the curve modifier. So it could be just the fact that there's Maybe there's not enough. Yeah, at Crowgy, that's a good call. That's a really good call. Really good call. Resolution of the curve. Yeah, it could be. Is it the number of vertices you think, or is it the actual resolution of the curve? Does it matter with the render versus the preview? Okay, so there's the render preview going up. Definitely, it looks like it could have been it. Interesting. Is it completely gone? Just cranked? Or was smoothing part of it? No? I mean, it's definitely it. You can see the resolution of the curve. So just at 64, it looks like it pretty much disappears. Would you, is there like any rule to that, Kuroji? Like, there's no downside, right? I mean, it's definitely, I don't think that matters for getting rid of it. So once we apply this, and that definitely solved it. Don't see any downside in having the curve. Okay. Wait a second. Oh, okay. Yeah, this one. So now we can apply this. Yeah. Good call. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so we have our pre-applied, the curve, and that's this guy here. And then we've got the applied one with the curve, and we've got rid of that stuff, which is awesome. Okay, I feel good about this. I was just gonna mess around with some texturing. I was just thinking of different ways to do this. So I've said this in the past. You know, if I can get away with using like a Quixel texture, I do, just because I bring everything in Unreal Engine. But I also was thinking about like all sorts of different ways and approaches to this. I just want to see what this looks like with the base resolution or base texture first before I go anything else. And then we'll try some procedural stuff. Where is my asset browser? Where is my materials? Single material. There we go. So I don't know if people haven't seen this before. There's like a little script I wrote. It's basically a single material setup. It's specifically set up for Quixel Megascans. Just because I got so frustrated with adjusting the stuff every time. So I made this. So this setup basically has like kind of everything I need for basic texturing. I know. I looked at the UVs on this yet. This should be fun. We're gonna unwrap this. Oh, this would be. This is like a whole other. That's like the whole other technique, which I've somewhat neglected. Actually, like unwrapping a model and properly texturing it. Oh, this would be so painful. It's gonna be so painful. I feel like I should just go mess around with my my camera view for a second, because I really wanted to do something with that. Oh, this is gonna suck so much. Oh well, we'll just mess around with some stuff. Oh, really? Congratulations, you weren't there long, so I guess it didn't work on you. Yeah, maybe there is issues. Oh, okay. Well, we're gonna go back to the drawing board now. Why does that not show up? Am I losing my mind? Oh, did we? Okay. They're in, yeah, they're in, did they run away? Oh, you did a nice one. It's a good move. That's an easy way to get rid of them, eh? Yeah, maybe they're just going for level of difficulty. Maybe they're probably the best at what they do. And they're just like, hey, send this guy to this neighborhood. Send this group to this neighborhood. I wonder if they keep stats. Like, you think it's like sports, like the NBA? Like, you think they have like conversion rates, like total houses visited per month? Like, you think they have it all set up? It's a crazy way to live life, man, to do that. Must be, there's no way you can, there's no way, I don't know how you get to the point where you'd actually be excited to do that. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's like the biggest Ponzi scheme in the world, right? The more people you convert, the better your spot is in heaven. It's complex, eh? Hmm. I wonder. Cool, man. Appreciate you, and good luck with the interview. Good luck with the interview. I'll probably be wrapping this up pretty soon. I usually go till 8:30, so I'm a little bit over time. But I was just wanted to mess around with something quickly before I went. Okay, I'm gonna call it a stream. I'm gonna take a break. I'll be back a little bit later on this afternoon. Thanks